Welcome back everybody to BeamNG.drive, and today we're looking at a new mod, or one that's not been out very long, and it's the ETK A series, more specifically the 1600 version. Now this is an automatic car with front wheel drive, and yeah, it was made between 1980 and 1990, and it's clearly based on the Golf Mark 1 from that period. So yeah, a really nice looking mod, to be honest. But like all mods, there are some instances where the overall design of it does somewhat come apart. The rear windows, for instance, can bulge a little bit when crashed, which obviously isn't realistic. But apart from that, really, it's a really fantastic looking mod. And yeah, we're going to put it through its paces here. So we're going to go around the suspension area of this grid map first. Then we'll do some rollovers, crash it to some explosive barrels, and then a cinder block wall. So yeah. Front wheel drive cars are obviously a little bit more susceptible to damage than rear wheel drive or all wheel drive cars, because obviously the front wheels do everything in this instance apart from some minor braking. So yeah, might fail quite quickly, but interesting to see how long until it does fail, at least. As you can see, the front is taking a bit of a beating already. Too much of one, thankfully. So hopefully this is going to be a bit of a tough car at least. There's some crashes going on there, but it doesn't seem to be taking too much damage, which is always a good sign. The sills below the doors seem to have taken a bit of damage there, and the wheels at the front do not look all that round anymore. Bumper's looking a little bit slanted as well, but apart from that, it seems to be dealing with everything okay so far. Visible decrease in the length of the suspension. Oh dear, that's not going to help. Yeah, the door is popping out now on the right side there. I have to say I'm fairly impressed by the toughness of this so far. This is the ultimate challenge here. Oh, that's a lot of bangs and knocks. Oh, there goes the fuel tank, weirdly. We've had that happen before. Yeah, this is not long for this world anymore, this car. And there we go. So yeah, overall a solid car. The reason why the front left wheel there has snapped is because we hit one of the jumps at a weird angle just before it died. But yeah, on the whole, a really rather solid car. Obviously the fuel tank is quite susceptible, but then again we're going over one of the toughest kind of surfaces to go across on this game. And most cars do take a hell of a lot of damage there, so just so happened to be the fuel tank on this one. But yeah, overall a solid car. So yeah, let's get over to the rollover ramp and let's see what happens there. And yeah, I think this will deal with this okay. Wheels are quite well protected, but it's all about whether or not it's going to induce rolls more than just the roll itself at the beginning. Because we saw with the muscle car, I think it was the Moonhawk, that was very hard to keep rolling. After it came off the sled, it was rarely, if ever, going in for another roll. So yeah, let's see what happens here. This is quite a it's just a car that's susceptible to rolling, clearly. Probably because of the shape of the body and the quite soft suspension as well. But it's not gone as far as some cars have. But it has taken a hell of a lot of the damage in the process. The roof has come quite all the way down on the driver. Let's just look in the camera version. Yeah, it's very near our heads, so yeah, that is not a by far one of the worst conditions that we've had in a car in the first rollover, outside of the ones that have failed, that is. Right, let's see if it can survive again. The roof isn't particularly strong on this by the looks of things. Yeah, the roof is clearly the weak point of this car, because look at that. It's well gone down. Good few inches there. Yeah, the driver is not... He's not exactly stuck for room for space. The car still mostly drives alright. It does seem to be pulling to the right a little bit though. Oh, and it's not wanting to stop either. Don't know what we got stuck on there to stop us reversing. We'll have to go around. We've lost some suspension height in those crashes. Right. Let's see what happens the third time round. Will it survive this final one? Well, the door being open now has stopped it from rolling again, which is, I guess, an inadvertent safety feature, but yeah. I'm not going to call that a pass, to be honest, because look at that roof. It's way down near the heads of the driver and passenger there. Not through the seats, but, you know, most people that are driving or a passenger are taller than their seat. So, yeah, that is a fail as far as I'm concerned. The car itself has survived, but yeah, the passengers and driver wouldn't be unlikely to do so. So, yeah, that is a bit of a shame. So, yeah, let's get lined up for the crash hard barrels, the explosive ones. We'll reset it before we set off. Right, let's see what happens. Now a good sign of a mod, like I've always said, is whether or not it can deal with this. This is quite a heavy impact, and it can sometimes expose the weaknesses in a mod. Seems to have held up fine there. The mod that is, not the car. In fact, the front wheels were fine until the car came down back on the ground, which is a surprise. Usually they go in a explosion like this. But yeah, you have to say that overall the passenger and driver would probably be alright. Outside of the doors opening and the steering wheel going up, the roof hasn't caved in, and yeah, the driver's seats and the passenger seats haven't moved around too much. So yeah, I'm going to say that's a pass. Although the car itself has taken a hell of a lot of damage there. Alright, let's see about the cinder block wall. That's pretty perfect, to be honest. Considering you're going 60 miles an hour and you're hitting an object that's probably heavier than you are, that is pretty damn good. I mean, none of the windows have even, well, the front window's cracked, but the side windows haven't smashed in, so that is a good sign that the bodywork has withstood that overall impact. So yeah, mostly impressed by this. I'd say it failed the grid map and the rollover test, but the explosive barrels and the cinder block wall, it's passed, so it's 2 out of 4 so far, so not the best, but far from the worst. So yeah, let's get into the crash hall and see how this deals with small overlap crash tests at 30, 40 and 60 miles an hour. So here we are at the crash hall, so let's see what happens at a 30 mile an hour small overlap crash test. Now this is obviously quite a lightweight hatchback from the time. It weighs 2,138 pounds, so yeah, not particularly heavy. Now granted, less weight can mean less momentum being carried by the car when it's stopping in a crash, but it can also mean less crash protection as well. So yeah, this could go either way on this crash test here. That's mostly okay, but you can definitely see the weak spots in the car even at 30 miles an hour. The roof and the door, for instance, are on their way out. The roof has started to go up and down, and then up at the front even, and then down near the B pillar, and the door has started to crumple outwards as well. So yeah, that does not give me the best of hopes for a higher speed test there, but at 30 mile an hour that is a survivable one. So let's see what happens at 40. So we have seen some dramatic changes between 30 and 40 before. So let's see if that's the case with this one. And yes, that is the case with this one. That is a catastrophic failure there. The roof, like I said, has progressed even further from the 30 mile an hour impact. The door has now popped open, which again would be a failure. And I think the steering wheel has moved towards the driver as well. Yes, indeed it has. It's not in us, as in the driver, or it wouldn't. It might not well have impacted us when it was coming forward, but with the driver going forward, it would have impacted us. So yeah, I'm going to call that a failure, to be honest. That's one of the few failures at 40 mile an hour that we've had, actually. I can't remember the last time we had a 40 mile an hour failure, but yeah, that definitely is, because seatbelts back in the 80s or even early 90s for small cars like this might not well have had seatbelts that slow you down as you go crash. So yeah, let's see what happens at 60. This is probably going to be quite a nasty crash, given 40 mile an hour was hardly a a winning success. Oh, yeah, that's a big failure, that is. I can see where the steering wheel is going now at that higher speed. The chassis itself is buckled right the way down. As you can see, it's now touching the ground. And the steering wheel has not only come towards us now, but it's also jutted off to the right. So even if there was an airbag, it wouldn't have provided any protection whatsoever. And yeah, the seat has moved so much that the camera isn't even in the right place anymore. So yeah, that is a big failure, that is. So only 1 out of 3 there. So we're only on 3 out of 7 so far on this review of this car. So this is not looking great. So yeah, nonetheless, let's get onto the highway and see what happens when this comes across 2 cars that are of similar size and weight, and then one that really isn't. Right, so here we are at the highway. So we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna go up against 2 cars that are of similar weight and size to this at 60 miles an hour, and then yeah, one vehicle that is far heavier and far larger at the same kind of speed. So yeah, we're gonna go up against the Fate 1, which is basically a Fiat Panda from the early 90s, which is a little bit lighter than this at 110 pounds. But yeah, it should be interesting to see how 2 similar kind of mods can handle this kind of test. So let's take a look. Now both will get up to 60, so there's no problem in that regard. It'll be slightly off centre, but not so much that it matters. Oh, well, despite the fact that the Fate 1 is lighter by about 110 pounds, I'd say that went off a lot better, to be honest. Yes, they've both taken serious damage there. Although the A-Series here has still got its engine and its driveline, whereas the Fate 1 hasn't. Yeah, it really hasn't. But I'd say interior-wise, this has gotten off better. Even though the doors have crumpled up and the roof is gone, I'd say that's a better state of affairs than this, to be honest. Primarily because you can see the steering wheel has moved a fair bit, whereas in the Fate 1 it hasn't really moved at all, to be honest, I don't think. Either way, that is probably a crash that is not survivable in either case, but it is interesting to see what 2 similar mods can do against one another. So yeah, let's go up against a car that is more bog standard in the game. I think the Corvette should be about the same weight as we are. Yes, it is. Right, that's 2116. That's 2116, 2161, 21883. Right, we'll go for one that's slightly heavier than we are, just because obviously we went up against one that was slightly lighter than we are, so it's only fair to go for the opposite. So yeah, the Corvette has been a pretty all-round decent car, so it should do well here. Oh, I didn't slow it down in time there, but either way, yeah, the Corvette's definitely the better option in this regard. The steering wheel is right up to the driver on the A-Series there, where that's just not the case with the Corvette at all. I mean, it's not far off, but it's definitely further back than the A-Series. So yeah, I say the first crash test was definitely a draw, but this one I don't think is at all, to be honest. Yeah, it's clearly the Corvette that has gotten the win on that one. So yeah, that is a bit of a shame. It just shows how far crash test safety has gotten over the years. Because yeah, this is a wreck. Alright, now for the ultimate test. It's not a case of if it's survivable, but how much damage will it take in this crash test scenario. because we are going up against, I want to go up against Hopper, but I don't think they're all that much heavier than we are. Yeah, 3395. They aren't particularly heavy, are they? We go up against SUVs a lot, so I think we're going to go up against something a bit more lower down, but it's far from a lightweight regardless of that. It's 4045, 4189, 4321. $4519. That seems like a pretty heavy one. Yep. Heavier than the standard ones, that's for sure. Instant death. Oh! I mean, it's literally pulled the rear end up into the air. Barely anything has happened to the Grand Marshal. Yes, that is a devastating and catastrophic failure there. Guess that's no surprise given how much heavier the Grand Marshal is, but look, the Grand Marshal has taken barely any damage at all. Yes, it's lost a wheel, and the bonnet is curled up, and the windscreen is cracked, but there is no real intrusion, no intrusion at all in the interior. Even the doors are still perfect. The roof is still perfect, whereas the complete opposite for this. Everything is gone. The steering wheel has pushed back, pushed forward. The roof has gone up. The door has popped open. The chassis is now on the ground. Yeah, that is catastrophic crash there. But again, no surprise. It is quite an old car, and old small cars are generally regarded to be really unsafe. So none of what's happened here today has been a massive surprise. But quite frankly, one draw, 3 successes. Yeah, 3 successes and 5 failures have been, well, 6 failures have been pretty catastrophic, to be honest. Because, yeah, it survived the explosive barrels, it survived the cinder block wall, and it survived a 30-mile-an-hour overlap crash test, but failed the grid map itself, failed the overlap over the rollover sled, failed the 40 and 60-mile-an-hour impact, and failed 2 of the 3 here. So, yeah, that is a not a resounding win, but it is a great mod regardless, and yeah, it's a really enjoyable car to crash and drive around. So I highly recommend downloading it if you can. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.